actually outline the cycle so that you know what the cycle is, where the drug of it, where the attachment occurs that is so compelling, so physiologically and emotionally compelling. Then we're going to talk about how this imitates a physiological addiction, what happens kind of on the hormonal end, so you can understand why this is so trapping, so emotionally trapping. I want to talk about how the emotional piece that happens to us hijacks the nervous system, so how they connect with each other. So I want to talk about that as well. And I also want to talk about, finally, I want to ask you some questions to see if you're addicted. I'm going to actually give you a quiz so you can see if this is something I'm experiencing. And then what to do if you say, yeah, at the end of it, you say, yeah, I am addicted. I don't know what to do. Then we're going to talk about what to do if this is actually occurring. Someone asked, how can I share this on Facebook? You actually can share it to Facebook. I'm actually on Facebook right now. So it's live on Facebook. So if you go to my page, you should see me streaming live right there. So you can actually share that with a friend. So if there's somebody that you know that maybe, see, here's the hard part. I'd love to have you share this with somebody, but don't be pushy. You know, if you know somebody that probably needs to see this, maybe they don't know, don't send it to them. But if you do know somebody who'd really like to, maybe should benefit from it, and they're maybe trying to break the trauma bond, they're trying to stop the craving, or they're trying to leave and they can't figure out why they can't leave, that's the exact right person to send this to. That's somebody who's ready to hear this. Is often we time our help or insight inappropriately, and whenever we do, then people dismiss it, or they find it's hurtful, or it feels like invalidating or minimizing. So be careful who you send this to, but maybe there is somebody that you really know and love deeply who's ready to hear this, then this might be something you want to send to them. So let's talk about the addictive cycle. Like I said at the top of that, when I first started this, and I started this early, I apologize to those of you who always know that I start on right on the hour today because I have a new program. I started early, and I know that really confused everything. And I'm still getting, I'm still getting error message using a frame rate frequency of 4 cents or less. They're not being sent off enough, and I don't know. Can someone tell me on YouTube? Is it acting really glitchy on your end? Are you struggling? Because that's what it says. It says it's I'm getting a straight, and I can't fix it because I don't really know what's wrong. But I'm gonna try to see if I can figure this out. I was using here's what I'm trying to do. If you ever watched me on Facebook or YouTube, you'll notice that I have a lag, a video and audio lag, and because of that, I wanted to fix the lag so that what you guys are seeing is actually what you're seeing. So, but I unfortunately, I don't know how to fix this once it's going. So anyway, hopefully this is survivable. Okay, you guys are saying it's okay. All right, well, let's get back into the content of the addictive cycle. Here's how it works. So I'm going to talk about the emotional piece first, and we're going to get into the hormonal piece next. The psychological addictive cycle is first brought on by the idealization. That's the love bombing. So anybody who's experienced this, you guys know how amazing this feels. It's incredible. I'll tell you, there's nothing like love bombing. Everything else afterwards feels like meh, like humbug. And that's the sad part, isn't it? Wouldn't it be wonderful? Maybe it's not, maybe it's a bad idea, but wouldn't it be wonderful if normal connections felt like love bombing, but they don't. But so when you meet somebody who's intending to connect with you and hook you in needing them, when it's really a relationship about power and control, not a relationship built on mutuality and love and vulnerability. In the beginning, this person is going to lavish a lot of attention on you. They're going to flatter you, give you gifts. There's just this intensity. And we often mistaken the intensity for depth, but it's not deep. This person's not a deep person because they can't sustain this connection. The intensity is actually just to build an attachment on your side with them. Some individuals who have character disturbances or personality traits mistaken the intensity for real love. They'll say, oh, I feel love because I feel the connection, but they don't realize that actually isn't anything deep. They just feel the intensity. And to them, the intensity equals love. It doesn't really, but there's no vulnerability. If you've ever noticed, if you step back after you've exited one of these relationships, or even step back and think about your last relationship where love bombing occurred, can you actually say that person shared super vulnerable things? Now, yes, they share a sob story. And yes, that felt very powerful when that happened. But that sob story's intent was to connect you. Intent was to make you feel attached to them and to need them. But it really wasn't an effort to risk with you. That's what we mistaken. We mistaken the intensity for real emotional vulnerability and risk, and it actually isn't. So be super careful about that, because it feels so incredible when it happens, but it actually isn't authentic. But you get attached because this feels like you've met you. And by the way, our secret unconscious wish is to meet ourselves. We really want to have that incredible experience, that powerful experience of meeting someone who's just like us, who has the same value as us, who's heading in the same direction as us. And so because they're mimicking, mirroring, and parroting you, you think you've met you, the opposite version of you, whether or not this is a same-sex or opposite-sex relationship, you feel that other person is your soulmate. That's why we often, I didn't believe in it. And yet when I met him, that was one of the first things that popped out of my mouth, is I felt like I had met my soulmate. So it's a really powerful connection, because the intent on that other person is to hook you. Now, granted, everybody starts out there first on the best foot. We're making a sale and we want this person to choose us. So we deliberately present our best self as an effort to engage that other person. But we also are trying to risk ourselves because we want to build a real connection and a real relationship. People who have personality traits or have some kind of psychological dysfunction, their intent is not to be vulnerable and to be exposed. Their intent is to control the connection by presenting what you want to see so that you are attached, but they don't intend to risk and feel attachment with you. So that's the hook. That's how we first get into this, and it feels incredible. But shortly after we get into this, and please like and share this, you guys, so that we can get more people in this live so we can share this content, because I think it's going to be helpful to a lot of people. And I'm going to give you a quiz to find out if you're addicted to your partner. So if you know somebody who wants to know, maybe they wonder if this is healthy or not healthy, make sure to share this with them, because I'm going to share a quiz with you. So the next stage is devaluation. And this is where you're now invested. They've probably have tested you by threatening the relationship in some small way, and you've shown that you're willing to choose the relationship over yourself. You did your first act of self-abandonment. And when this occurs, then you at this point are hooked, and they can tell that you're hooked because you behaved in a way that indicated that they've got you, because you chose them over yourself. Here's how it happened to me. For those of you who follow me, and thank you for those of you who are new to me and don't follow me, but if you follow me, you know that my hair is always changing. And the reason my hair is always changing is because I wear wigs. That after my third baby, I had a massive hair shed, and I'm, I don't have much hair. So these days I primarily wear a wig. At the time that I met my ex, I hadn't really so-called come out about the fact that I had this massive hair loss. And I was feeling really awkward about it, very self-conscious. I had been married for many years, and my late husband knew about it. And so I had this sort of this privacy that I had with him. I hadn't really had to share it with anybody outside of him. So I remember I'm getting ready to go for my first weekend away with this new person that I just met that I'm really falling for hard. And I said to him, hey, I'm going to wear a cap sometimes because, by the way, I wear wigs. And he then came back, oh, did you have cancer? I'm so worried. No, I didn't have cancer. I just had a massive hair loss. Here's how the first test he gave me to see if I was hooked. And that was, he said, I can't date somebody who's not willing to risk being vulnerable. And if you can't show me without your wig what you look like, then I don't want to be in this relationship. I was devastated. Now, there's a part of me that growing up, adult girl who pulled up my panties wanted to believe that, okay, you should take a risk. And risks mean being vulnerable. But what I didn't know was he wasn't risking. I was doing all the risking. So when I agreed, even though I wasn't ready, and even though I sobbed and begged him please not to require that, but see, he threatened the relationship and I wanted the relationship so badly, I agreed. There was the hook. He knew then he had hooked me. So once the hook is set, and I don't know what the hook was for you, it probably was something really different. But if you think back, there was a moment where this person made an ask, and you knew the ask was big, and it went against something about you. It went against either your ethics or the way you did things. But there was something that you felt like, this is not normally who you are, but you did the ask because you really valued this relationship. So you went along with the ask. And when that happened, that person then knew they had hooked you. And then the devaluation starts. Now, for a lot of it doesn't like actively kick in massively until not only are you hooked, but you're trapped. And that trapped is another stage. So hooked means I know this person's invested more than they're invested. But the trap is when they've closed in something on you and you now can't get out with a lot of effort. For some of us, that's getting pregnant. Others of us, it's moving across country. Maybe it's taking a new job. Maybe it's moving in with them. Maybe it's buying a house with them. For me, it was getting married. So I got trapped once I was married. And then that's when the mask falls. But the devaluation actually starts pretty early. When they know that you're invested, they'll do this little they'll start gaslighting you, but you may not recognize the gaslighting. Or they'll do something like they'll criticize you in a positive way. Like, I really like your hair longer. It looks so much prettier when it's down. And you're thinking, you mean I look ugly when it's not? Or you look so slender in that outfit. And you're thinking, and I don't when I'm not wearing. But there'll be something that kind of make you feel like doubtful and question yourself. I heard it on the most ridiculous things. Like, I didn't know how to put, you know how you get furniture from Amazon or wherever you buy it from and it comes in a package and needs to be assembled? I heard that I assembled it wrong. I mean, silly stuff like that. But you'll be told that you're not quite doing it right. And the reason you're not quite doing it right was because their way is better. But it's inadvertently also criticizing you without really actually know that you're being criticized. So they'll start the devaluation process and you'll start chasing their approval. There's where the confusion starts to kick in, is that you know they really once upon a time highly loved you, but also at the same point, you also but you wondered if it was real love, but now you feel like you're falling from grace. And because you're falling from grace, then you're trying harder to get their approval back. So that's how it starts to experience the connection. And by the way, what's more connecting isn't just it's just not just the hook, it's the fear of the loss of the connection. When you start to fear abandonment and fear like this person's going to leave you, then you're more invested. You're going to work harder at that point because of that. And someone just said, he told me my legs look elongated because of a certain pair of shoes I wore. See, and I bet you changed a pair of shoes then when that happened. I also heard, by the way, and I had done laundry for a family of 5 for 30 years. Well, not all 30 years, but 28 years of them. And I heard that I didn't know how to hang laundry correctly. I mean, come on. So it's really ridiculous how this happens, how that hook process happens. But when that hook happens and you're then now chasing their approval because of that, you're going to be more invested because of the fear of the loss of the connection. So then they start to, because then I said the trap closes. You make some big decision. You move across town. You get married. Maybe you're intimate for the first time. Maybe you took a new job. But there was some moment that you made that like sealed the deal, that made it really hard to get out of this relationship. And when that happens, then their mask drops. And at that point, they then start actively like really ramping up the gaslighting, and the cognitive dissonance really starts to set in a profound level. Now, what is cognitive dissonance? Dissonance, and by the way, we often say it wrong. I usually add a D in there and there's no Ds. It's dissonance. It means confusion or chaos. So what happens is that you don't know, you haven't met the real person. You don't know that they've been trying to hook you by sharing who they thought you wanted to see. So you think you met the real person and that's who you fell in love with, which is really just a twin of you. You don't know that it's not a twin of you, but it is a twin of you. To give an example, my ex was serial cheating all the way through the relationship. And one of the women he was serial cheating with, I didn't get to know her, but I got to know a little bit about her because she was the one, by the way, that contacted me to tip me off he'd been cheating. And I found out by connecting with her through Facebook that this woman had 5 dogs. And my ex, by the way, hated pets. He made it very clear we were not going to have pets in the house. I mean, he expressed like he abhorred them. He loathed them. and pets were not going to be a part of our life because he was like chasing me because he wanted something from me. By the way, if you watched my video on psychopaths and sociopaths, you'll recognize actually that I had married a psychopath, that this guy, I was the patsy, the target, and because he was targeting me, he was knowing that he planned to like live with me, and he didn't want any animals in the house. Now, this woman, he didn't plan to live with. She wasn't a patsy. She was more like a pawn, something he was using along the way. And she had 5 dogs, of which they slept in the bed with her. This is a guy who was so meticulous about his clothing that he would rant at me about how his past experiences with cats and dogs put, hair on his clothes, and how furious he was about that because how much money he'd spent on these outfits. So just to give you a picture, so she met somebody that she didn't know hated animals. And because he was like, had a longer plan with me, a bigger view, he was in a chess game with me, he told me right up, we're not going to have pets in our lives. So here, she didn't know she didn't meet the real person. I didn't know I didn't meet the real person. I thought I met somebody who was spiritual, who was thoughtful, wanted to have a really rich relationship with me, who liked classical music. What I found out was he was somebody who was not a self-starter. He lacked discipline. He couldn't keep a job, and he liked techno. See what I'm saying? So at some point, the mask falls. But because you met somebody different, and because they know that periodically you've got to reinforce this whole situation, you see a little more of the original person that you saw, that makes you doubt, well, maybe that experience you had with them was just a fluke. Maybe you got it wrong. Maybe they had a bad day, and that there's nothing wrong with techno. I'm just saying that I wanted somebody who's, I don't care for it. I mean, it's okay. I do listen to it periodically. I mean, I do like some bands who do it, but I'm just saying it's who he pretended not to be. If he had said to me, hey, I'm into this music, I would have said, fine, whatever. But he didn't tell me that part. He presented it differently. So I felt like it was a big, and the music to me is not a big important. I'll tell you what was important. He presented it to me that we were going to have an exclusive monogamous relationship. I did, but he never had. There's where the bait and switch was. If I had known I gotten into a relationship with somebody who was not having a monogamous exclusive relationship with me, I wouldn't have ever gotten into a relationship with him. And if I had known that his priorities were really different than mine, and that he was a liar, and a practiced liar to everybody, I wouldn't have gotten into a relationship with him. That's my point. That's what I'm talking about. So it wasn't about the music. It was just that he presented how he thought I wanted him to be. So now you're in this relationship that you're confused about. You're not for sure who it is you're really married to or in a relationship with. And you're like, keep thinking that the original person you met is just having a bad day. So you work harder, and you think maybe you're overreacting. And then what they do to keep you stuck and attracted to this individual is they give you just enough of that early person that you met, just enough of that facade or mask to keep you hooked, to keep you hoping that the real version will come back. And this is, I'll tell you, I stuck in this for a long time, so severely. He would go to therapy. He would read books. He would go to couples therapy with me. And I would walk away from every event and thought, he gets it. He gets it. We're going to be better. We're going to get on good, solid footing here. And it's going to be all right. And no, that's not what happened. He didn't get it. He was just misleading me, making me think that there's hope. And the hope then kept me strung along to me. I mean, he would even talk about it. He'd talk about, you're scared that this is not authentic, which reinforced it because I was looking for insight and he was giving me insight. So I thought, oh, he gets it. We're going to be okay because look, he can reflect back how I'm experiencing. No, this was just a more sophisticated form of manipulation. By the way, as I said earlier, I was actually in a relationship with a psychopath. It's interesting because I got to meet Dr. Ramani, and I was talking to her just briefly enough, and she looked at me and said, why did you say he's a narcissistic sociopath? Kerry is a psychopath. I looked at her and I said, yeah, you're right. He probably was a psychopath. So, but you get into this pattern of they give you just enough of the breadcrumbing, just enough of the old love bombing that you originally had. And then the gaslighting starts back up and the criticism starts back up and the abuse, the way that they're attacking you, the betrayal reoccurs and you start to feel super confused, and then they reward you again and you get super confused. And that's the cycle. Why is it addicting? Well, because it creates emotional withdrawal. Just like a substance would create withdrawal, some form of detoxing create a craving or withdrawal. This cycle does the same. and also because it mirrors some of your unresolved childhood wounds. Now, I want to stop there because I get really fatigued with people saying that none of us would have gotten into these relationships if we had not had a dysfunctional childhood. Not everybody has a dysfunctional childhood, but you can still get into these relationships because they're that sophisticated. And if you really want to read a super good book on this, check out Don Hennessy's book called How He Gets Into Her Head. How He Gets Into Her Head talks about what they've noticed on the back end from law enforcement end about domestic violence and other forms of coercive control victims. They found that the thread, the variable that tied all the victims together was not the victim or the victim's personality or the victim's behavior. It was the predatory behavior. It was the predatory behavior that caused the connection. So you met a sophisticated enough abuser who is very good at creating this longing inside of you that connected with your innate need to belong and to feel part of a larger group and to feel special, because we all have that need. They found a way to tap into that in a unique way to make you feel seen so that you got attached. But yes, if you happen to have childhood wounds, because we all do, none of us get out of our childhood clean and clear on this, it also taps into that. It taps into your need for self-worth and your need to earn their love. You feel very, very compelled. So how does this mimic the physiological addictive cycle? It actually does. Somebody just asked, will you please talk about that? Yes, I want to talk about that because it actually does. So that's why you get out of this relationship. In fact, I just heard one of my clients in the Toxic Free Relationship Club say to me, how come I crave them? I know this person's bad for me. So why do I crave them so badly, even though I know that they hurt me, that if I do this again, they're going to hurt me again? Well, it's because they've hijacked your hormonal, your neurotransmitter system to make you get into a cycle of highs and lows. So this is what happens. Our body is all about survival. It is wired to keep you safe, and it has a very sophisticated system to do that so that if something dangerous was to happen right now with you, it would do something to protect you. So, and it would release all the right kind of chemicals that you need for you to deal with that situation in the moment. So the idealization phase actually floods you with a lot of dopamine and a lot of oxytocin. This is the connection for connecting. Oxytocin makes you feel warm. It's how you bond with somebody. Dopamine is the reward hit that makes you feel pleasure. And they've actually found that when we fall in love, our brain actually goes a little bit offline. It's not thinking very logically. So that love bombing, that really super high, hijacks the system, and then it makes you feel kind of it's super glow, like this is glowy feeling, like, and you're not very rational because you're like so doped up on love. But then when you start to feel something that feels threatening, like something a little off, you start to feel this fear, and that fear releases the stress response, which is then it puts out adrenaline. And I know that I had it early on because I actually did a background. Here I'm madly in love with the guy, and I did a background check on him because something bothered me. And my question was I actually hired a private investigator, and my question was, is he really divorced like he says that he is? He says he's divorced. Is he divorced? Why was I questioning that? I had no proof that he wasn't divorced. By the way, he wasn't divorced. I found that out 5 days before I was to marry him, that he wasn't divorced. He forgot he wasn't divorced, which I don't believe. Of course he didn't forget. He just didn't care. It wasn't that he forgot. He didn't care. Anyway, so I sensed something was wrong. And because I sensed something wrong, my body started saying, alert, alert, something's not right here. And it sent out a lot of adrenaline to keep me safe. But that's what happens in these relationships, is that they do this kind of cycle, is that you get this really great experience, you get dopamine and oxytocin, you get this kind of stressful experience, you have a rush of it's not norepinephrine, it's epinephrine. But because of that rush of epinephrine, your body starts to also put out cortisol because you're stressed. So you're starting to crash because you're in the cortisol, and your body is moving into this inflammation state because you're in trouble and it's trying to protect you. And that's what it does. But then the minute you're starting to wonder, maybe this is not all right, then it sends out more, you get the love bombing and you get back into the more dopamine and the attachment. So all of this causes dysregulation. you're swinging rapidly. I would swing probably with what it felt like for me was I'd go between fear and anxiety, wondering whether or not we're going to make it, to, oh my goodness, we're okay. A sigh of relief, which is back to that dopamine, and we'd have some great moment and we'd maybe even connect in some way. And I think, oh, it's going to be all right. And I'd get another like push of oxytocin and dopamine, and we'll think that then I'd feel better. And then I start chasing that. And for those of you who read my story, Love You More, you could see me chasing it. Now, I didn't know that I was chasing it, but some of you critiqued me and said, how come you were constantly going on weekend trips? If it was so bad, why were you going on weekend trips every time you turned around? Well, because I was chasing the high of the connection. Because whenever I'd get scared and things would feel flat and I'd feel him getting distant from me, I would be back in that fear response, that stress response, and I'd want the connection again. I'd want the dopamine and the oxytocin. So I'd then schedule another weekend trip in hopes that somehow we'd feel close and I would feel reassured and I would feel hope and I would get that relief again. So there's how the cycle is. But that makes you, unfortunately, biochemically tethered to this person. So it really is hard. In fact, I just had this, for those of you who know, my podcast has been on a hiatus for the last several weeks. And it's going to restart, by the way. For those of you who are wondering, when am I going to go back live again? It restarts August 18th. And I have an amazing lineup, a really incredible lineup. And one of them is a very long interview with Dr. Peter Salerno. We have an incredible guest lineup. I'm super excited for you to meet them and hear them. But Dr. Salerno and I had a very long talk. And one of the things he said I thought was super powerful is he said, you can't wait for the confusion to clear before you leave. That's what a lot of us do. We keep waiting for when I feel better and when I know what I want to do, when my mind gets in the right spot, then I'll know I should leave and then I'll leave. But the problem is you don't ever get clarity because of this cycle, because of how sophisticated they are. And somebody asked, do they know that they're doing this? That's a hard question. Is there intentionality? With some of them, yes. I think, for example, with mine, yes. He was a psychopath. There was a lot of intentionality. Remember, this guy was very sophisticated, and I was not the first. He'd practiced. He was in his nearly 50. He'd practiced his whole life on doing this. So it really, but I think the new ones, somebody's saying, yes, they do. I think the new ones that are just fresh out of high school, who are manipulative like this, I don't always know that they know what they're doing, but when they see it works, then they do it again. And then when they see that it really works, what I'm saying? They're how you say you need 10,000 hours to become an expert at something? Well, these people have had a lot of practice. They churn through a lot of relationships. They lead a lot of people on. And as a result of that, they get to know what works and they watch you. They're very good at watching you. And yeah, exactly. I love that, Sandy. Subconscious reinforcement. They're experiencing reinforcement by its effectiveness. And once something's effective, you're going to do it again and do it again and do it again. So yeah, I do think that as they get older and more practiced, like I've noticed the few times, and I have not been on in almost 2 years because I can't bear it. But when I've been on dating apps and engaged in the conversations, those people know what they're doing. They know how to hook, and they also know how to create fear. So I do think that the older they are and the more practiced they are, the better they get at it and the more conscious it becomes. But that makes it so hard because our nervous system needs recalibration, and we often don't recognize it. We often think that the relationship needs stability and some kind of like firm footing. It needs firm footing, and if we could save the relationship, then we'll be okay. The problem is this person's never going to allow this relationship to be on firm footing. It's always going to be run on chaos because that keeps you off balance and it keeps them in charge. And also it keeps you, as a result, it's really hard to leave because you don't know that you're grieving the original person that you thought you met that you never actually met. You fell in love with somebody who really didn't exist. And so you're still trying to process that, and you're in a lot of pain over that. And because of that, then it's keeps you working around the illusion this person exists and they don't exist. So you don't do the grief work to help yourself heal. And here's the other part that's super hard about all of this. And that is you betrayed yourself. You may not have meant to. You didn't know that. You're like, oh, I'm going to walk into this relationship and let them hurt me. You didn't know that. But you get into the relationship and you say, how come I didn't see all these warnings? I mean, I look back, there were warnings on the first date, guys. And I'm a psychologist. I mean, you should hold me to a higher standard. I didn't see it. I didn't want to see some of it, but because of that, then I look back and think, well, I missed it. So what's wrong with me? Maybe my picker is not all that good. Maybe my decision-making skills is not all that strong. And so I then feel more self-doubt. So then I doubt myself when I'm healing too, as a result of that. So now I'm like, now I don't trust anything that I think or do because I've betrayed myself as a result of that. So there is an addictive cycle, and it's both physiological and it's also emotional. The emotional chaos fuels the physical addiction, and it feeds on it. They've begun the cycle, and they keep you on the cycle as a way to keep you attached. Their goal is attachment and control, not their attachment to you. They're not invested in you. They're not attached to you. Please never don't think that when you hear all this complaining and begging and pleading that there's something authentic. There is not anything authentic here. This is a person who just doesn't want to lose their stability. They're really about wanting comfort and having things timed under their control. It's not about you. It's about themselves. Never mistake that. They're never about you. It's always about themselves. But this keeps you very, very confused because of all of this. So your body is chasing dopamine, oxytocin, and the relief of the cortisol drop, and that you're emotionally chasing the best version of them that you're never going to get back because that version never really fully existed. So you are in a bioemotional loop. You're craving relief from them, so you seek connection with them, which traps you further. I really want you to hear that. I'm going to say it again. You have a bioemotional loop that you're craving relief from them, so you seek connection from them, which only traps you further. So really, really be careful about this. It is a trap. You're seeking. I remember near the end when things were really blowing up and getting super bad, that he had just profoundly hurt me, massively betrayed me again. We were in therapy, couples therapy, and I was confronting him. And the therapist thought she had this big breakthrough between the two of us. I knew it wasn't authentic. I knew that she'd basically let him out because he was going to walk out of the room as she pushed him further. And then she had him hold me and comfort me. And I thought, as I cried in his shoulder, I thought, I've been here before. This guy has hurt me, and now he's trying to comfort me. He is the reason I'm in pain, and now he's trying to be the source of my soothing. He is not the source of my soothing. He is the source of my pain. But I felt such confusion. So I want you to know this is just so confusing, so confusing for us who are in this relationship. Now, I have promised to give you a quiz to see if you're addicted to someone right now. So if there's anybody that you know that you'd like to share this live with, please share it right now, because we're going to start the assessment to have you check to see if you're addicted to your partner. And I want you to, first of all, know that there are no wrong answers. This is just how it feels for you. And I also want you to just pay attention to how often you say yes. There are 15 questions. Do you say yes to the majority of them? If you are, then that may mean that you have a physiological as well as an emotional connection or addiction to this partner, to this person. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. It could be a friend. It could be your boss. It might even be a family member. So just pay attention to how you're asking. So whoever the they is, fill in with the blank with this person that you're thinking of right now. So here's question 1. I feel an intense urge to reconnect with them even after they hurt me. Is it almost always? Is it always? Is it often? Sometimes? Think about if it's true or false. Think of it in terms of true or false. Number 2, when they're kind or affectionate again, I feel a rush of relief that I can finally breathe. I'm going to say it again because I really stumbled on that one. When they are kind or affectionate again, I feel a rush of relief like I can finally breathe. Number 3, I often minimize or rationalize their harmful behavior to myself or others. Number 4, I've tried to leave or go no contact, but I keep getting pulled back in. Number 5, even when I know the relationship is toxic, a part of me still believes they could change. Number 6, I feel panicked, empty, or physically unwell when we're disconnected or not speaking. Number 7, I keep waiting for the real them to return, the person who seemed loving at the start. Number 8, I find myself obsessively thinking about them or replaying our conversations. Number 9, I've ignored my own needs, goals, or values in order to maintain a relationship. Number 10, I feel ashamed of how hard it is to let go, like something must be wrong with me. Number 11, I crave their attention or validation even when I know it comes with pain. Number 12, I often check their social media, ask mutual friends about them, or reread old messages. Number 13, I feel addicted to the intensity of this relationship, even the highs and the lows. Number 14, I've stayed longer than I wanted to because I couldn't bear the thought of losing them. And number 15, the thought of fully moving on feels overwhelming, terrifying, or impossible. If you have answered often or almost always or true to most of these, then you're experiencing a trauma bond. This is a physiological and an emotional addiction that's common in a narcissistically abusive relationship. And I want to let you know that you're not weak and you're not broken. This is your brain and body's effort to survive something that is deeply confusing. Deeply confusing. And I have been there because I also was stuck there for over a year in this actually almost 2 years, in a deeply confused state where at times I felt like I went back and forth in the same day thousands of times whether I should leave or stay. So let's talk about how to break this addictive cycle. And then I also want to then take your questions for the last 15 minutes. So in 15 minutes, I'm going to get into taking your questions. Might even get it there a little faster, but I really can't wait to hear what you guys are thinking about this topic, but also anything else. And for those of you who don't know, I realize I'd never introduced myself. I'm Dr. Kerry McAvoy, and I am a retired psychologist with over 25 years of counseling. So how do you break this addictive cycle if I just described you in that quiz? It is about detaching. That's the biggest way through this, is you got to detach from the physical and the emotional hold this person has on you, which I know is very, very difficult. I had a hard time. I had to talk to myself. I literally had a second conversation with myself to help me remind myself that his opinion, his values, his thoughts, his criticisms didn't matter because I was prioritizing myself. I was not prioritizing him, but it took hard work. It took really hard work. So first, the number one step is to acknowledge that it is an addictive-like experience. Call it what it is. It's not just a breakup. That's why this is so hard. This is not just a breakup. This is a trauma bond. This is a trauma bond. That's why it is not so simple as just leaving, because you are left confused about what is the truth about yourself, the truth about this relationship, and the truth about this partner. You are intensely confused. So it is not just a breakup. I want you to identify the pattern that you're in. Are you back into the breadcrumbing stage, or is this idealization stage? Are they devaluing you? Are they now discarding you at some level where there's an abandonment and then breadcrumbing you again? Identify that stage that you're at, and then validate that confusion, validate the craving and the longing that you're feeling. They're not weaknesses. They're signs of conditioning. You have been conditioned as sophisticatedly as Pavlov conditioned those dogs to salivate at the sound of the bell for anticipation of food. You have experienced the same type of reward system that has trained you to want to find relief by being in their presence. Even when you know they cause you harm, you've been trained to seek out their presence because that's when you start to feel better, because it soothes you to be around them. And I know for anyone who's never experienced this is so weird to hear this, but yeah, it's absolutely crazy making. Yeah, they conditioned you on purpose to need them because it keeps you in the relationship and controlled by them. And they're looking for safety by maintaining control. They don't find safety in emotional vulnerability by being real. They find safety by being in control and being in power. That's the first thing. Acknowledge what's happening. Call it what it is. Identify the pattern. Number 2, I'd like you to start to think about ways to create physical and digital distance from this person. You need to start to interrupt the cycle. Now, for me, when I was in the relationship and hadn't left it, I would do that mental talk. I would say to myself, you don't care about his opinion because his opinion is hurtful. Or you're not going to listen to what he says and thinks about you because that only hurts you and he's a source of pain. I'd actually no longer center myself around this individual. I centered myself instead. So it took mentally shifting away from prioritizing their opinions, thoughts, and needs, and start paying attention to my own. What did I want to eat? When did I want to, what did I want to do for fun? What kind of, I started asking myself these essential questions that I'd stopped asking because I was so invested in this relationship that I wanted to try to save it by doing everything he wanted out of the effort to hope that he would care enough that he would care for me. That never happened. So I started creating internal distance by not centering him anymore. That's super hard, but I know it's really helpful to just talk to yourself like, okay, he just said that, or she just said that. Why am I taking it seriously when I know that they don't like anything that I do? Or why am I taking it seriously when I know that the next thing out of this person's mouth is going to be the complete opposite? So start to catch yourself prioritizing them and centering them. I want you also to stop checking on them. Guys, I was the biggest snooper ever. I swear you couldn't have topped me. I was snooping constantly, checking through his phone, trying to find evidence of emails. I did all sorts. I was on his computer. I actually one time stalked him across town. I did so many, crazy stunts in an effort to figure out what the truth was. I actually went and looked for a second phone in the condo's underground garage, looking through our car, trying to find if he'd planted a phone to have a secret way to communicate with the women. He had figured out a secret way. I just didn't figure out how he'd done it. I know now how he did it, but I didn't know at the time. So I had to say to myself, stop checking. It doesn't matter. You're not going to find enough evidence. If you could have, you already would have. You've been doing this for over a year and it's not led you to any productive choice, any productive decision. Stop. Just stop. I'll tell you, it was really hard. I just said, your confusion is enough. You shouldn't be confused in a relationship. You shouldn't be this stirred up and troubled and scared. And that's the sign that something's wrong. So stop checking. Maybe if you're out of the relationship, stop checking their socials. Stop asking mutual friends for update. Start to block them and mute them on all platforms, even if it's just temporary, just to give yourself a relief. Start to remove the reminders, the photos, the gifts, the playlists, everything that used to make you think of them. Get rid of it. You need the space, okay? So really think about how to create distance from this person. If you're in a relationship, it's going to look a little different if you're out of the relationship, but think about how to create distance. Number 3, I want you to interrupt the fantasy loop. I want you to give up the idea of who you think they could be. I want you to give up the hope of their potential. That person isn't existing and they're not going to come. And the only reason they ever presented that soulmate idea was to hook you, was to attach you. That fantasy that you have, that's not a real person. They never existed. So I want you to write down your most painful memories, not to dwell on it, but simply to act as a reminder of the reality. So here's how it would look for me. This is a person who didn't even bother to remember they're married until 5 days before we got married, to then proceed the process of divorce, even though he knew I was seriously against anything like that. And I wouldn't even date somebody who was separated. That was one of my non-negotiables. You had to be divorced. This is a person who didn't bother to tell me they were married. It lied about it. This is the person that on the day before we got married, after our rehearsal dinner, he went and met somebody else and then showed up at the wedding after spending a night with another person. So write down your most painful moments so that you can remind yourself that somebody who loves and respects you and cares about you does not do this behavior. This is horrible behavior. And it's not one-off behavior. This is a behavior that's indicative of who this person is, their lack of morals, their lack of integrity, their lack of concern and respect for you. Please, please begin to see the reminders of who this person really is and what they've done to hurt you. I want you to create a truth list that you can revisit in a weak moment. Include things that they've said or did that was emotionally unsafe or dehumanizing. I want you to include things they said or did that was emotionally unsafe or dehumanizing. By you breaking this fantasy loop, you'll begin to ground yourself in the truth, and you will help break through the cognitive dissonance that keeps saying, but maybe it was just a bad day. Or, everybody has their moments. No, good people who love and respect you, who are kind and compassionate, do not do these things. That is not in their nature. It's not consistent who they are. A person who does this once or twice or 3 times, that's a revealing a pattern of who they are. I watched my ex lie to his friends. His friends would call up and say, "Where are you?" And we'd be heading out to dinner. He goes, "Oh, I'm home watching blah, blah, blah." No, he wasn't. He was in the car with me heading to dinner. Why lie? Because he was a liar. That was the pattern. He was a liar. So interrupt your fantasy loop. Number 4, I want you to reclaim your nervous system safety. You've been living in incredible chaos, incredible drama. I want you to start to ground yourself. Now, maybe, what does this look like? I mean, we talk about this, but we often don't talk what this is. We use all these buzzwords, but no kind of description. So here's what it is. It's just stopping and taking a deep breath slowly and counting. You can do what's called the box breathing. It's 4 by 4 by 4. 4 seconds inhale, 4 seconds hold, 4 seconds exhale. Try 10 in a row. You're feeling stirred up. Try box breathing 10 in a row. Put cold water on your face. Wash your face with cold water. I love to wash my calves with cold water. Take a nice cold or even hot, take a hot washcloth and wash your calves. It feels amazing. Walk around barefoot. Feel the grass. Make yourself check in. Maybe you want to do something like 5 things you see, 4 things you hear, 3 things you smell, 2 things you, or 3 things you can feel, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. You know, check in with your senses, ground yourself back into your body. This is a really great way to help you re-regulate what's happening inside of you so that you can focus on you and heal. Number 5, I want you to work on cultivating counter dependency. This is where you shift yourself from saying, "I need this person to feel okay," and you say instead, "I'm okay even without them." Now, here's the big problem I see us do when we do this. We often think, "I need to feel that way. I don't feel that way, so therefore it's not effective." No, that's actually not true. You can say this to yourself even though you don't believe it or feel it, and it will still have power. It's amazing how the mind works. I actually done a study on of others and watched this. It has power. So I want you to go ahead and say, when you feel that need, "I'm okay even without them." Even though you don't believe it, I don't care you don't believe it, you still say it because it has power. And start to say no to things to prove that to yourself. Start to spend time with yourself on purpose to really anchor yourself in the truth. Start to reinvest in people and practices that will feel very nourishing to you, not depleting. This is you reattaching to yourself and you detach from this other person. Number 6, get support from people that really get it. Be very attentive to who's around you and what they do and how they behave and whether or not they understand what you're going through. Get support from people who really get it. Maybe it's join a community of survivors. I have the Toxic Free Relationship Club. I offer any financial assistance at the premier level to anyone who asks. And no amount of money is too much money to ask me for help on that. Please just, if you want to join that club and you're struggling because you're being financially abused, please just talk to me about it. I always give financial assistance to everyone who asks. Work with a coach or trauma-informed therapist who understands narcissistic abuse. But avoid professionals who are pushing you to forgive or pushing onto you mutual blame too early, because that is somebody who's not been informed and had the right kind of training. And finally, start to really track your cravings. When do you feel the pull to reach out? When do you feel that desire to check up on them? I want you instead to pause and write instead whatever is triggering this craving, what you're hoping to feel if you reconnect, and what this is going to soothe if you do this. You're not actually trying to suppress the craving. You want to understand it so that you can redirect it. All right, I talked a lot and I even started this early. So now I want to take your questions. What are your biggest questions as you heard me talk about this? Or maybe it's something else that we're actually have been going on about. I really would love to have you share with me what it is that you are want to know more about this. So what is your biggest questions around this? And thank you so much, guys, for being with me today. And for those of you, if there's been any kind of lag any point, I really appreciate your patience with this. So, all right, I'm looking at the questions now. Yeah, there's been an interesting discussion over in the chat with YouTube. Jeez, you guys that's fascinating. I appreciate that. So biggest questions for me. Yeah, reckless driving. Is it, is that a habitual issue that you're experiencing with your husband, that they drive recklessly whenever they're driving in the car with you? No, I don't know what they drive. You wouldn't know how they drive when they're driving alone. But yeah, reckless driving is actually pretty common. I know I was so terrified. It's interesting because here's how the shift happened for me. When we were dating, he didn't drive recklessly. He would actually drive kind of slow. I actually got irritated for how careful he drove. But once we got into a relationship, whoo, man, I actually had to watch my phone or play a game on my phone as a way to avoid the fear, because the fear was so intense. I think it was, again, his way of keeping me in chaos and destabilizing me, making me feel really anxious. I think that was one of the reasons why he was such a restless driver. So I'm sorry, reckless driver. He wasn't restless, he was reckless. But yeah, that's a common problem that we see in relationships. And so, yeah, if that's something you're experiencing, that makes sense. It is. It's a way to remind yourself, I agree, remind yourself that you're vulnerable, that this person really is a person who's in control. So yeah, I do very much agree with that viewpoint. Question for me on YouTube. Yeah, somebody said it's a great point you're making. It's very hard for us to believe these type of people exist, but we have to. I'll tell you, when I grew up in a pretty dangerous home environment, extended family environment, so I knew that there wasn't safety necessarily in a family context, but I did think that there was safety in the world. Why would I assume that? I don't know. Probably because I've been safe in the world. I guess. But when I discovered the level of duplicity, I remember thinking, this is just like out of a movie. I mean, people really don't act like this, but yeah, they actually do act like this. So it is hard to wrap your mind around it. I literally thought I'd stepped onto a movie set when I met this person and discovered all the stuff he was doing. So yeah, GMB, thank you so much for talking about this being a safe space. And I'm thankful that people are here for the first time. I go live every Tuesday, by the way, and educate. I won't be going live next week. Please be aware of that. I'm actually going to be out of town, so I will not be live next week or the week after. So I'll be gone for 2 weeks and then I'll be back. So my next live is going to be July. Let me tell you really quick, just so that you guys know. But I always advertise. I try to advertise it at least several days in advance, often more than that. And I'm now doing that on TikTok too. I'm creating events so that you guys can pay attention and know. But so my next live is going to be on the 29th. My next live is going to be on the 29th. So I always do the education, and I would love to have you come back. Yeah, somebody's asking when the podcast's coming back. So I have Breaking Free from Narcissistic Abuse. Thank you guys so much. You guys have made it one of Apple relationship podcasts, one of the top 100 Apple relationship podcasts. I'm just thrilled by that. Deeply, deeply appreciate you so much. I have an amazing fall lineup. We start August 18th, and I have a new segment, guys. I'm really very excited about this, and that is we're rolling out fan mail. So fan mail is where I take your question. So if you'd like me to answer something, please, it's best if you email me, hello@kerrymcavoyphd.com. But you can also go to the where it says, if you see the audio, it says, send me a text. If you respond, that's not a live line, but it will send me a message of your question. And I'm going to be taking like a 5 to 7 minute segment and answer your question, whatever your question is. So I'd love to have you guys send me questions. And I'm glad there's men in my audience today. I'm really thankful for that, because abuse happens to both men and women. We talk about narcissistic moms, but we don't talk about narcissistic wives. It's really bizarre how we do that. And also, thank you for that reminder, Obi. For those of you who are subscribers, whether you are a super thriver, a super survivor, or you are a Substack paid subscriber, or you're a Toxic Free Relationship Club member, you're invited to an exclusive event tomorrow called Ask Me Anything. And there's actually a registration form. Did I say that right? That you guys can fill out. I should have sent it. You should have gotten it in your email on Monday. Please fill that out. And I've posted it also on a post in the community post on YouTube. So fill it out and please send that in. And then you will be able to join me on Wednesday. So I will make sure you guys get the link to join me. It's going to be a Google Meet link that you're going to get, and we'll talk about your top questions. Just the private group of us. It's going to be small. I bet you there'll be like maybe 10 people, 20 people at the most. It's going to be a really small group. So I would love to have an opportunity to spend an hour with you to take your biggest questions. Yeah, Obi, I will make sure I post it again on the community right after I get off of this so that you can find it. So look for a community post here on YouTube, and I'll make sure it's sent out. But those of you, it was tricky to get it to my YouTube subscribers. That was the tricky part. It's also been added to your benefits. If you go to your benefits and look at one of them is the AMA. You'll see it. I actually have provided it right in the list of your benefits so that you can get it. My handle for YouTube is at Kerry McAvoy PhD. At Kerry McAvoy PhD. It's the same as here. It's the same everywhere. There's no difference. So, but yeah, YouTube people were really hard to get it to. So I made a post and I put it in the benefits. But if you can't find it, I'll post it again on a community post so you guys can get it. But everybody else should have been emailed. Oh, thank you so much. Somebody just subscribed. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who are my subscribers to the higher level, come August 18th, I'm back to the podcast extras. And again, I've been saving the best questions for my subscribers. So if you want to hear people, and Les Carter, by the way, is my top person. That's what I'm kicking off my August 18th interview is with Dr. Les Carter. So it's going to be an amazing interview. It always is with him. I just adore the guy. We have a fabulous conversation. So I can't wait for you guys to hear that conversation that starts with August 18th. Yeah, in fact, I'll tell you who's on the lineup if you guys are curious, because you guys haven't been asking me a lot of questions today, which is fine. That's fine that you don't have questions. But so on August 18th, you guys will get to hear Dr. Les Carter, and also a private conversation if you're a subscriber with Dr. Les Carter. On the week after that, we are going to be featuring Dr. Nadine Macaluso. She is the ex-wife of the Wolf of Wall Street. She comes back, and we're going to be talking more in depth about trauma bonds with Dr. Macaluso, or Dr. Nay. Many of you will know her as Dr. Nay. She is the second week of, she is August 25th. And then the next person after that is Labor Day. And Labor Day, I'm having a special on all the ways that you get confused. So if you're looking for just a kind of like a montage of a confusion, that is on Labor Day. But tomorrow is the AMA. So you guys would, if you would like to join me with a private ability to ask me a question and go live with me just alone, just the group of us, we actually see each other face to face. That's the part I can't wait for, guys. I can't wait to actually see you and get to know you guys better. This will be tomorrow at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time. I will repost that link in the community post on YouTube. So watch for it right after today's event. Or if you are a Substack or a Toxic Free Relationship Club member, you should have gotten an email in on Monday. I sent you the email. So I'm really, really looking forward to tomorrow. A question. I know there's been some questions you guys have asked me that I have not commented on. By the way, and I know TikTok won't like me saying this, it's not to subscribers on TikTok. You need to subscribe on YouTube or on Substack. That's where you get this invite. It's really hard to promote these type of events on TikTok. They want you on the app. They don't want you off the app. So I don't know how to do that. And because of that, and because of the interviews that I do, I can only do it through Substack or YouTube. So that's why I unfortunately have to subscribe over there. Substack, it's Breaking Free from Narc Abuse. Breaking Free from Narc Abuse is the Substack. And on YouTube, it's at KerryMcAvoyPhD.com. So I thought there was a question that came in from YouTube. TikTok. Why can't I let go of my boyfriend who cheats a lot? I have a feeling, how much of this interview did you hear today? Because we talked about it a lot, about why we can't let go. It's a trauma bond. You have a trauma, they've hooked you, making you feel like you need them. And you're now fearing the abandonment. Even though they're the one that hurts you, they've created this intense confusion that you feel you need them, and you just joined. This whole thing has been taped on Facebook and YouTube, so you can find it on YouTube, and it's called Addicted to a Narcissist, and the Addiction Cycle in a Narcissist. And I actually have a quiz, by the way. If you re-watch it, the quiz is about half an hour in. You can actually test yourself. So I'm really sorry that you just joined. I'm actually getting ready to end this today. So, yeah. So Susie said that she really loves Dr. Carter and Lisa Romano. That's who she got through with the COVID lockdown, but she just found me. I'm so appreciative that you're here, and you appreciate the nonviolent communication for clarification. I'm glad that that's been really helpful. So thank you so much, guys, for being here with me again. For those of you who are going to join me tomorrow, watch for the post on YouTube on how to join me for the AMA. It will be 5 o'clock this time tomorrow. I will be doing a private AMA for anybody. Yeah, the Facebook lives are saved for a month, so you can find them for a month. And then Facebook dumps them because they don't, it's a lot of content. I can't imagine the amount of servers they need to keep all these up. So this has really, really been wonderful, guys. Thank you so much for joining me today. Just a reminder, I will not be going live next week. For the 2 next weeks, I'm off. I'm off next 2 weeks. I will be back on the 29th. And on the 29th, we're going to be talking about, I'd have to look. I don't really know off the top of my head, but you'll see it because I'll make sure I'll actually advertise it right away. So I will make sure that you guys know. Oh yeah. So the next one will be, if I'm not ready to leave, here's what to do. So if you're struggling with not ready to leave, here's what to do. That will be the live stream for the 29th. So I can't wait to, and then for the 4th, we'll be talking about the mind games that narcissists play on us to keep us trapped and confused. So I'm so excited that you've been here today. Thank you so much for joining me. And I am okay. Thanks for asking, Kate. Yeah, I was in one of the counties where there was flash flooding and actually loss of life in this county. I'm not near a river, so I knew I was safe, and I also didn't go out and drive. But my heart goes out to those families. I actually visited Kerrville. My maiden name is Kerr, by the way, which is really ironic, but I actually had been there and visited. It's right near Fredericksburg, which is a place to visit. And the stories are heartbreaking. They're just really horrible stories. So my heart goes out to those who have missing people or that they've lost someone in the flash floods. So, all right, you guys, thank you so much. And I will see you back here in 2 weeks, actually 3 weeks. I'll see you back here in 3 weeks. Bye-bye.